Hey guys, this is Dennis, the founder of Thinkera.
And I'm David Griffin, your resident comic book and video game guru.
And this is our review of Game of Thrones Season 4, Episode 6.
Yeah, the laws of gods and men.
So yeah, this is the big Law and Order episode of Game of Thrones, which we'll talk about at the end. But let's start off with Stannis and Davos coming to Braavos. This is the first time we've got to see Braavos.
Yeah, it was a great opening shot. I love just seeing the soldier with the broken sword. Mark Gatiss made a great special appearance, who plays Mycroft on Sherlock, if you're a fan of the BBC Sherlock series. Great actor, making Stannis wait until, through midday, waiting for them to show up. Great scene. I mean, I always love when, because Stannis is always so I'm above everyone else. I like when he's put in his place, and of course, I love seeing, his boy come to his rescue, of course.
Oh, Davos.
Yeah, Davos does a great job, as always, just kind of, defending, for better or for worse.
Well, the thing is Stannis, I mean, like Renly had said in what was it, in the first season, about, was it first season or second season, whatever. Right. He's saying, Stannis, he just doesn't have any charisma. He's not, he has loyal.
He's a man of his word, though.
He is a man of his word, but he also has a lot of pride, and that's why he couldn't compromise with Robb Stark to basically, they could have won the war.
Right.
And now he has too much pride that he doesn't want to beg the people of Braavos for money. Right. Davos has to convince them and say, hey, look, Tywin's old. He's gonna get, he's gonna die eventually. Then what do you got left?
Right. Because the whole question is, who are you gonna back next? They're basically, they're investment bankers in a way. They invest in who the winning team is going to be, and like you said, this war is not going to be over as long as Stannis is alive. Stannis Braavos. So it was a great scene, just well done. It was great, seeing the guy from Sherlock, do his thing, and it was really well done.
And with the Braavosi, for them, everything is all about numbers and logic.
Yep.
And what's the logical choice?
Right.
And for them, they had to be convinced that Stannis was the logical choice, not a emotional one. No. But I think Davos did a good job, especially with the finger thing. He kept he's
showing them, this is the price that I paid. It was fair. I paid my debt. Now I move on. I love Davos too. He always defends himself about being a pirate. It's like, well, actually, I wasn't a pirate. The pirates did the stealing. I helped move the product.
I'm the smuggler.
I'm the smuggler. I don't do that. And then, of course, I don't know the actor's name, but I love the guy who plays Salador San. He's great. Telling that whole pirate story about the red shirt and the brown pants and all that. With the prostitutes there in the bath. That was a great scene. I love their chemistry between Davos and Salador San.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I used to think this guy loved me.
I know, it doesn't love me.
He's like, you're not my friend, my friend.
Yeah, you're not my friend.
So yeah, now they got the money, obviously, because he talked to him and showed him, gave him some of the money that he owed him, I guess, and said there's more of it. And now he's got to go to war.
They didn't specifically say what they're going to do next. They just said we're setting sail on the sunrise or whatever. So now we got to see what move they're going to make, in the upcoming episodes.
All right.
Should be good.
And then the next, we haven't seen the Theon storyline for a while, and Yara starts reading that letter.
Yeah, she gave kind of a Braveheart speech.
Exactly.
Braveheart speech, yeah.
Basically, whatever they're doing to him, they're doing to all of us and the whole country and blah, blah, blah. But then when she gets there, she finds...
She's like,
well, because I'm sure she expected him to be messed up.
Right.
She expected him to be tortured, messed up, probably.
But still be Theon Greyjoy.
Exactly.
Not Reek.
Not completely. Right. She couldn't account for someone like a Ramsay Snow. Someone that's so psychotic that would do something to him. Right. And basically saying, okay, well, Reek, there's no Theon anymore. It's just Reek.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good scene. I mean, Ramsay, you think he might be a little tired. Boy just had some sex. You might not think he'd be up to his, the most visceral nature. But I mean, he was ready to go. Just comes in, shirt off, bloody, ready to fight. And I love the question he posed to Yara. Is like, how fast can you run? And then you see Yara at the end just kind of running towards the ship and say, that's not my brother anymore, getting out.
Yeah, I wonder if that's gonna hold. If she's truly done with that.
Right. Because it almost seems too fast. You stop in, do that, and then I'm out. I'm done.
And then she was upset because he wouldn't leave with her. He started yelling. He started screaming, which Ramsay kind of rewarded a bath for him for being so loyal.
You think that the bath's going to be acid or there's going to be some type of piranha in there, something bad. Even you can just see him shaking, there's something wrong with that water.
Well,
if I get in there.
He's
scared.
He's scared of everything. I mean, that's why he didn't run off with Yara, because he's afraid, oh, if I get caught, I'm going to just get beaten up some more. I was watching the Inside the HBO episode, and they were talking about, he's all about pain avoidance now. That, he's just, his whole goal is just not to get beat up.
Yeah, and I think it's a good episode for him because I think even me, I was last season getting tired of just watching him being tortured. That's not really, I'll be honest, I don't think it's great television, just watching this guy be tortured, having his junk cut off and, you know, teased by women and, you know, it wasn't interesting. But now we're seeing that payoff. It was nice seeing Yara come in, try to save him. It looks like now Ramsay's got a plan for him. You know, I need you to be Theon and Greyjoy. I need you to act for me, to do something for me. So now we're going to be able to see Reek, a.k.a. Theon Greyjoy, do a little something now as opposed to just being tormented his whole life.
Yeah, but I think with the torturing, like, it was hard to watch, but then because of how they needed the character to turn, they needed to show that. Because otherwise you'd be like, well, how did he get to this place? You
right,
know?
I'm fine with this scene or so, but I think, for me, this is my opinion, I think we saw it too much last season. That's just me, though.
Yeah, but, I think in order to get across that he's, you know, because if you just show 2 torture scenes, let's say a season, you're not going to get that like, oh, he's like this. He's turned into someone completely different, you know? You have to like drive it into people's heads like, no, this guy went through tons of stuff.
Yeah, we're finally going to see the payoff for this now.
Yeah,
which is good.
And then also we saw Dany kind of dealing with parts of ruling that she probably didn't expect.
Yeah. I mean, she's got a lot of responsibility. She has 200 and whatever many people that she has to see on a daily basis now that have problems. And I like, because in the books, Dany's not really my favorite character. She's so, I don't know, she's very proud and she thinks like her ideal. She considers herself a savior. Like, I'm going to go to the 7 kingdoms. I'm going to stay here and people are going to want me to rule. They're going to desire me to rule. And she's very naive in a lot of ways, and I like that this kind of put her in her place. I mean, I don't know who the actor is who played the nobleman who came up. Yeah, Nobleman's son who came up, but that was a great scene. That was one of the, like, for me, and I know I got a lot of flack for this last week, and I criticized last week's episode, and last week's episode was not my favorite Game of Thrones episode. I still stand by that. I rewatched it before this, and I still don't think it was one of my favorite episodes. That being said, it's still better than 90%.
You're wrong. It's awesome.
I know, it's awesome. Yeah, it's still better than 90% of television out there right now, and I do say that. This was my favorite episode of the season, hands on. Even better than The Purple Wedding. I think this was my favorite episode. Brian Cogman's writing was spot on. The directing was great, and this scene was one of my favorite scenes of the story, just because Dany had to think. He's like, oh wait, it's not completely transparent. Not everybody's bad. Just because this person had it's like, I mean, I'm African American. I don't want me to get too political. I'm African American. I'm descended from slaves in this country, in America, and not every slave owner was the worst kind. You know what I mean? You saw that in 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah.
Not every person is the worst person ever. So it's like, this guy, maybe he didn't deserve the punishment that he had, you know, and I really like that they addressed issues like that. I think that's important.
And also, it showed some of the, you know, the side of ruling that isn't so, not glamorous, but like, she just expected, okay, like, these people are going to love me because I have freedom, and I punished all these bad guys, not realizing not everyone is always, not everything's so black and white.
Right, yeah.
And so by doing that, she did probably do something that she probably realizes now was not the smartest thing.
Right.
She didn't go through and be like, oh, who's this guy? Oh, this guy actually opposed the thing that all those slave kids getting killed.
Yeah.
So he was actually a good guy, if you know the nobleman.
If it's true.
If it's true.
Right.
So she allows him to bury just her father, his father, not anyone else, just his father, because she's kind of touched and moved by the story. And
he humbled himself. He bowed and did all that stuff. And it was good. Yeah, it was a good moment.
And before that was the whole goat scene.
Yeah, that was good too.
We got to see all the money in the dragon.
Yeah.
they spent all the money basically for the dragon to come and eat the goat.
Right.
And that was one of those things where, like, okay, she's doing something nice. For them, and that was kind of an easy thing to do, especially considering, like, I'm sure she has more money now.
Sure.
And so it was like, okay, here, your goats, whatever. 3 times the price of a bunch of goats to her is nothing.
Bad. Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, so. But I don't know how the other 200-something meetings went, but that was a great scene.
Yeah. What I liked about it, it's showing kind of the hardships of ruling. It's not so cut and dry easy for Dany. Like, oh, I'm just gonna free slaves.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a queen. I'm gonna rule. Like she says it very epically. Like, I'm gonna rule. But then like, oh wait, I gotta sit here for like what 8 or more hours a day just listening to people like their problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's tough. It's not an easy job.
No, it's not. And then now on to King's Landing, where the bulk of the episode is the Law and Order, the trial of Tyrion. But before we get to the trial, they have like a council meeting with Tywin, Marjorie's father, Prince Oberyn, and Cersei, and Grandmaster Pycelle.
Yeah, that was great. I love Prince Oberyn in that scene. He's becoming one of my new favorite characters. I love that he said there's like, all these meetings going to be this early. I was out late last night. I love when, because he's a prince, so he's a higher rank. So I love when Tywin walks in, they all stand up. Prince Oberyn just kind of sits there and looks at him like, whatever. Like, I'm a prince. I don't need that. And I love Marjorie's dad. Like, Tywin's like, go get my pen and quill.
Yeah.
Quill and all. They just get
he's what we call happy to be there.
And he was so happy to get his pen. He's like,
doesn't matter. Yeah. Doesn't matter what he says or does. He's just happy to be there.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I guess for this show, I think you and I probably agree on this a little bit. I love the scenes with Tywin and just like the small council. Like some of those conversations are some of the best in the series. Like the stuff with Bran and Jon Snow it's fine, but I love just those small moments in that council. There's so much tension. There's so many different emotions, so many things moving, but it's in a subtle way. There's no big deaths. There's not a lot of blood or anything going on. It's just very subtle, nuanced moments, and I think this show pulls it off better than most, I think.
Also, one thing too about on the same lines that you're talking about is, I know the Lannisters are the evil ones, right? But they have the most interesting characters. You look at Tywin, look at Cersei, look at Tyrion, look at Jaime Lannister now, like who's really coming into his own. These are some of the most fascinating characters. I mean, there are other ones as well, you know. You have Arya and Dany and some other ones, Jon Snow. But like the bulk of the most interesting stuff happens with the Lannisters.
And I like that they keep mentioning Dany. They keep mentioning Daenerys, being like, look, there's this girl over there. And she's just like, well, why should we worry about this girl half a world away? And they're like, no, she has dragons. She has these, you know, the Unsullied. And, of course, you know, Varys and Prince Oberyn recognize, like, hey, these are formidable opponents. They could cause damage if they do come over here. And, you know, I like Tywin's like, we got to deal with her. We got to do something. You know, Tywin's smart enough to know that she will be a threat eventually, when she decides to come over, whatever she decides to do.
He may be underestimating the dragons, though.
Yeah, because he keeps saying baby dragons, but I like how Varys is like, they grow bigger each year. Like, you know, he said a kingdom hasn't been won in 300 years with dragons, but I'm like, yeah, but a kingdom was won at one point in history.
And he wasn't around anyway.
No, he doesn't remember what happened. Yeah, he's not that old. He doesn't remember what happened.
And then Cersei kind of brushed it off too, like, whatever, who cares about this girl, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's actually pretty important because she's building herself. Even though Dany is not the most experienced leader, she does have a loyal following.
Great advisors. Good
advisors, armies, you know. And Cersei was like, oh, yeah, who cares about Saracen? What's his name? Selmae? The other guy, not Mormont. Like, she's like, whatever.
He's old and washed up. It's like, not really. Still, I mean, I think there's a problem with Cersei. Cersei, like, even Tywin said, you think you're smarter than you are. She underestimates her enemies, I think.
And Tyrion said once in an episode, like, oh, and you overvalue money.
Yeah, she thinks she can just buy everything with her looks and her money. She can just get whatever she wants. That's not the case. Tywin's smarter than that. Varys is much smarter than that. I love, and then just the scene just following after. I don't know if you agree with this. I think Prince Oberyn is kind of replaced Littlefinger. They're not the same. They're very different. But remember, they had those great conversations in the first couple seasons with Varys and Littlefinger just looking at the Iron Throne and just discussing politics and philosophies. And I love now that Prince Oberyn has kind of moved into that position. I thought that was a great conversation between those two.
Yeah, but you still have Peter Baelish.
Oh, he's still here. Yeah, he's not gone.
And Varys vying for the Iron Throne from behind the scenes. You have Peter Baelish, moving with the Tyrells and with the whole, assassination, poisoning of Joffrey, and then you have Varys here. We'll talk about this later, but in court with Tyrion and how he maneuvers with the Lannisters as well. So he's trying to position himself into power. And yeah, you're right. The conversations, he has with Oberyn about desire, because it's weird. You have this thing where here's a guy, Prince Oberyn, who loves men and women. He loves living the life.
Living the life.
Desire is all. Where Varys is like, oh, desire, basically sees desire as a weakness. So he doesn't like, because you assumed, I think early on we made the assumption that, oh, even though he's a eunuch, he probably, there's
at one point liked something.
Or, there was rumors that he liked little boys, type of thing. But he's like, no, I don't like men or women. I care about other stuff.
Yeah, and that was great. And I like too that we see Oberyn, he's smart. Like I like that we see when he said he found out what accent he had. He said, you're from this area.
Essos.
Essos. he said, "I've lost my accent completely." He's like, "Well, I have a talent for that too," and I really like that. Those guys, I hope we get to see more conversations.
Oberyn's like the wild card, you know.
You don't know, like, you really don't know what he's thinking, even though he took Tywin's deal to be a judge, to be in the small council. We don't really know what he's got going. No, he's a really good character. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like him. And so let's finally get to the trial.
Right.
You know, Tommen decides to recuse himself
nice
from
little speech, you know, from the actor. Did a good job. Nice little speech.
Well, you know, you figure Tywin probably talked him into doing it, and he probably didn't want to do it. It was something that, you know, I'm sure that he didn't have to bend his arm backwards to do.
Right.
He was like, oh, you know, this is my uncle. And he probably likes his uncle.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to, but at the same time, I don't want to seem weak.
Right.
I'll let my grandfather, who everyone respects and fears, do it. So he just gets out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was good. I mean, because you can tell, like, there's no, like, malice in his voice when he's saying these things. He's just doing what he has to do, and then he, you know, I think he looks at his uncle a little bit, and his uncle nods at him and then walks off. And then with courtroom scenes can sometimes be a little dull. They can drag on too long. This isn't, you know, The Good Wife that specializes in things like that. So, but I thought they nailed it. I thought it was a great job. It was a good court. It was long, but it wasn't too long.
No, and they kept each person's testimony pretty short.
There wasn't like a lawyer doing like a lot. Well, I mean, not like the traditionally like a lot of like back and forth interrogation. It was like, you know, good size answers, get done, you know, get in and get out.
You start off with that one night. What's his name?
Sir Meryn Trant.
Yeah, who you know basically said, oh, I saw all this stuff happen. So all these things that Tyrion had done in the past that we all kind of applauded him for, you know, slapping Joffrey and saying these cool lines to Cersei and Joffrey and all that stuff. Now they're coming back to haunt him.
Right.
Because like a lot of this stuff, I mean, obviously we know that he didn't kill Joffrey, and there are certain things that are being lied about, but a lot of the stuff that they are saying was true. He did say those things to Cersei. He did slap Joffrey. He did say those things to Joffrey as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I mean, I liked all the line of questioning. I mean, probably the most interesting, I mean, I guess what's going to be on the internet, people are going to talk about is Shay, but I think the more interesting testimony for me is Varys. Because Varys was Shay is, you know.
Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I got a lot to say about that.
Yeah, you don't know, but Varys is the guy who, if anybody who was sticking up for Tyrion over and over again, it was Varys. So it's like, I think Tyrion, well, he wasn't more heartbroken by him, but he was maybe confused. He was like, wait a minute, why are you like.
He was hurt by it. I mean, he was hurt by Shay and with Varys, but Varys was the one that like started it off.
Yeah.
And because he felt like, okay, you know, he knows that I am a good guy. He knows that I've done all these good things for the kingdom.
Right.
And that I'm getting the short end of the stick. And even this guy won't stick up for me. Right.
Because then after that, before the Shay stuff, we had, it's called an intermission. They had lunch. You know, I mean, Tywin's up eating lunch. They had to take a break for lunch. And, you know, Jaime's basically trying to, you know, barter, trying to plead for Tyrion's life. Because, I mean, you know, I think Jaime. I wish we could still see more of Jaime and Tyrion together. I know there's trials going on, but I love the moment. He's just trying to plead with them, like, hey, can you give him a break? He's like, you know, if he confesses or whatever, or no, he'll be found guilty, and then we'll go to the Night's Watch, like Ned, Ned's deal, which of course didn't turn out too well for Ned.
No,
either.
But Tywin is someone that would honor that deal because he knows he's not Joffrey, because Joffrey was a loose cannon and just does things for his own pleasure.
Right.
Where Tywin was calculated with this. This was his plan all along. He took a tragedy. It's not like he expected this to happen, but he's taking a tragedy and putting it to his advantage, which is to get Jaime to continue the lineage.
Yes.
You know, I mean, he said quickly, like, okay. Because he knew that eventually Jaime would come to him with some sort of proposal like this.
But you wonder in all that, and I'm not speculating from any knowledge from the books, I'm just curious from the TV show, you wonder if Tywin knowing, let's say Tywin, I mean, they're calling all these witnesses, so Tywin has to know the witnesses, I'm assuming knowing who's coming out. So let's say Tywin knows Shay's coming out. I wonder if he thought that Tyrion would just go to the wall. Like, I wonder if Tywin knew like that Shay would break him.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had her called up. Okay. I think Tywin deep down knows Tyrion didn't do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Sure.
I think Tywin's smart enough to know why would Tyrion set himself up so
obvious. And if he did, he'd be smarter about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But for him, he's just taking advantage of the situation where you know, and Jaime. You know, he's willing to sacrifice so much. Yeah. You know, even though it's like a twisted, warped relationship with Cersei, he loves her. Let's excuse that it's his sister, so he's willing to give that up in his own, in his own mind. That's a big deal, and willing to go move away, go take over Castle Rock, do all these things he doesn't want to do
to save his brother,
who he's not going to see anyways. His brother's going to go back to the Wall just for the fact that he knows that his brother's still alive.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that's tough. I mean, that was great. I mean, it's
a big sacrifice. It shows how close they are. I mean, you and other people have told me in the books, the relationship between them, they show much closer. In the TV series, they don't show that.
It's not enough time.
Exactly. They show bits and pieces, but this shows kind of the ultimate sacrifice for him.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was handled well. Again, it was a good courtroom scene. You know, it was good. It didn't drag out too long. So I mean, the intermission, they come back, and then the big one, Shay comes out. That's the big one.
Okay, so
your favorite character on Game of Thrones.
Okay, so this is what happens. So after this episode airs, I get a bunch of messages on Twitter and on our YouTube channel, and so I'm sure some of the people are watching, and people are like, "Ha, see, I told you, Shay has a purpose, and Shay did this, and blah blah blah," and my reaction is actually, yeah, she did have her character had a purpose, but her being so unlikable and the relationship and just everything about her that I don't like actually hurt this scene. So people are like, oh, no, she's this way for a reason. No, I totally disagree. The problem is, okay.
Well, for you, it wasn't what she was doing. You weren't a big fan of the actress.
Well, both. I mean, both things, you know. I think they went hand in hand. I mean, the fact is she's just not likable.
Right.
In this scene, the problem is it's supposed to be heart-wrenching. Yeah. And so because she's unlikable, you just get angry. Like, okay, for the people who aren't fans of her, like me, you just get angry. You're like, oh, I told you so. I told you so. But that's not the intent of the scene. The intent of the scene is for you to feel like, oh my God, Tyrion's been betrayed by the one he loves. And so because she, at least from my point of view, didn't fit that role, then it doesn't work as much. Because if, let's say it was someone that I was like, oh man, I really liked her, I liked them together, I felt their love. This is so heart-wrenching that she's betraying him. How could she do this? But instead it's more like, oh, you're so annoying, I knew you'd do this.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I still say it didn't work.
Okay, no, that's interesting. That's a great take, because I guess I always knew that scene was coming, so it just, the suspense for me wasn't really there in that moment. I just like seeing the performances from
Tyrion.
From Tyrion, not from Peter her, Dinklage. But from Peter Dinklage was awesome. Especially like at the end when he was just saying, "I wish I could kill you all and give my life to," all that. He was great. But yeah, that scene didn't really do much for me either. Even though I guess I knew it was coming, so there was really not much of an emotional impact for me there.
Yeah,
just Peter Dinklage's performance is what did it for me.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean that he was supposed to be so heartbroken over. Yeah. I mean, Varys was the setup in terms of like, oh, that hurt him because it's like I thought this guy was my friend, or at least somewhat of a friend, and on my side, and he knows what I've done. But then this was kind of the final blow, because this is a woman that he loved, and it's like, really, like you're that bitter about what happened, and if you were a bit smarter, you knew that he did that for your own good. But who knows? I mean, I don't know what's happened behind the scenes. I don't know if they threatened Shays. I don't know if she has family or whatever the hell. I don't remember her backstory because I don't really care about her character. But yeah, I just found it just more annoying than anything.
Right. I mean, and then that drives him to such ferocity. Obviously, you see is just yelling at everybody, saying, "Wish you're all
and
dead."
Jamie had that look. He's like, "No."
Jamie's like, "No,
yeah, you're gonna ruin it."
Like, oh, yeah, it's just everything's falling apart. And even of course calls out his sister by saying, watching your bastard boy die was more pleasurable than 1,000 horse or something like that. And at the end, demands trial by combat. Well, he's trying to repeat what happened up at the Vale when Bronn helped him out.
Well, he is so sick of the hypocrisy of the whole thing because
he knows he's not going to get justice.
He's not going to get justice, and he knows that he's being unfairly punished because of who he is,
I'm on trial
for being a dwarf. Like if he was like someone else, I'm sure he would have gotten a lot of props for saving King's Landing from the Battle of Blackwater, and he knows that like they're all praising Joffrey. Remember Cersei was talking in her testimony about like, oh, like Joffrey wanted to stay on the front lines because he wanted to inspire the troops, but it was Tyrion that said, no, he needs to do this. So basically, he's had enough. You know, when there's that much injustice and hypocrisy done to you specifically, and no one sees all the good that he was trying to do, he just got sick of it.
He's fed up. He's like, I'm out.
So it makes total sense.
Yeah.
But the problem is, now it puts Tywin in a hard place.
Well, that was a great stare down. Just watching Tyrion and Tywin just stare each other down, just like, now what are you going to do? Kind of like that kind of look. And then, of course, you know, the Reigns of Castamere starts playing. You know, it seems like that's like the Imperial March almost of Game of Thrones.
It is.
You know, it's their Imperial March. So it was good. I mean, and now, you know, he wants a trial by combat, so we got to see what that's all. I guess what's funny about this.
But it screws up Tywin's plan.
Oh, yeah.
Because Tywin's like, okay, here, he's going to plead mercy. We'll send him to the wall. I'll get everything I want from Jaime. Jaime's not going to do what he promised if Tyrion dies. Then Tywin's plans are all out the window. And this trial by combat throws a wrench into his plans.
So that was good. That was really good. This, like I said, this is one of my favorite episodes. It's probably my favorite episode of this season anyway. It was great. I think it was well done.
Yeah, and then, you know, these aren't big spoilers. If you watch the on next time, you see that whoever the actor that's coming to be the Mountain for the third time.
Third Mountain actor.
Mountain actor is going to come back. You know, there's speculation that he's going to come back and fight during the combat. And there's speculation on who he's going to fight. I won't go into that, but Tyrion's going to, you know, hopefully pick a champion for himself, and we'll see who that is. Because it's not going to be him, because he will die.
I can't speculate.
In a short amount of time.
It's gonna be good.
All right, guys. So that's what we thought of this episode. You can post your comments below on the website thinkhero.com or on our YouTube channel Think Hero Pro. Make sure to subscribe to that.
You also can find us on Twitter. Dennis and myself are at Think Hero. I'm personally at GriffinDE.
And we also have a Facebook page. That's facebook.com/ThinkHeroFans. Make sure to like that page and share our videos on Twitter, Facebook, and all that stuff.